So I wanted to continue with the elemental body, which I gave a presentation and share with the Help for Helpers with in January. I think it was the first one of the year. So it's been, gosh, almost almost 4 months, 4+ months. And I'm glad I had that time in between because the first Help for Helpers, I talked about the three elements of water, earth, and air. And we have two more that I am to cover. One is about fire, and the other is space. And I actually asked myself, like, what do I actually want to say about fire? Because it's not an element that I feel like I've had so much exploration with. But now I feel like I embody a lot more fire in myself and can speak from it in a more embodied place rather than just a purely intellectual place. So, what I would like to offer today is to just share some of these thoughts and musings about these two elements and then take us into an experiential. And the experiential is borrowed from Continuum, which is a practice of conscious body movement practice. And it's extremely subtle and gentle. So it's very helpful for us to be in this kind of meditative state. But yeah, so I think maybe I'll just start out by asking everyone here, by starting with the element of fire, what do you affiliate when you think of fire? What is your relationship to fire, and what do you think of when you think about the element fire?
Danger.
I think of excitement, energy.
Playful expressivity.
Passion.
Nadi says power and strength in the chat.
The sun permeating.
Warmth and transformation.
Yeah, beautiful. Anyone else?
I think of the contrast of a house being on fire or sitting around a warm fire or cooking food, that this same element is so extreme.
Ever changing, changing.
Yeah, I'm here in Sweden, and I tending to the fire on a daily basis. And you take a branch from a tree, and then you put the right kindling in, and just transformation, right? Freeing up stored energy for something else to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So many different things that fire conjures within us. Steph says ashes. Yeah, post transformation, there's the ashes. Kind of cleaning. Yeah. Lion. Yeah, similar to what Natty was saying, kind of the power and the strength. Yeah. And I had another one that came in that said sex. Anonymously. That's great. Yes, another form of transformation and creation. Yeah. Yes, thank you so much. So, yeah, I love that there's so much multiplexity with fire. there's almost two sides to fire if we simplify it. And of course, it's more complex than that. But there's the fire that is nourishing and warm and tending, kind of like sitting around a bonfire. Like if we were to imagine us in a circle instead of just grids on Zoom right now, that we're tending to the fire in the middle of us, of being here in community, and there's like a warmth. And that's a fire that is something about tending that, right? Like there is a slow transformation in tending. And I think Pauline just said it needs to be fed. So this connection and warmth, vitality requires that tending and warmth and relationality. And the positive fire is also related to the warmth of our heart, the warmth of our being, the sense of creativity and our life force. If we think about energy as all animate things in the world have its life force, it's life-giving. So everyone who is alive right now palpably exert that energy of fire by just purely being alive. And we feel the contrast of that for anybody who is not alive. Their bodies, the temperature becomes cold. So in essence, by pure being alive, we have the heat of the fire. And we can tend to that through the strength of our heart. According to the Dagara people in Africa, they say that fire is our connection to our ancestors. And their belief is that the ancestors in the other realms and us create contracts for our existence in the world. And it is our job and the job of the community to cultivate and to see through the flowering of each individual, to live into their fire and their purpose in this world. And it's not job of the individual to exactly figure it out on their own, but it is the job of the community and through the seeing of the others of the individual that fire blossoms and moves into the world, which is such a contrast from the Western world, I feel, where like so much of us is trying to figure out what our purpose is. I know I've been there through that churning of what is it for me to do? And there's such a larger thread of carrying the fire from the ancestral line into our world. Yeah, so fire is a mediator and between the different worlds, the spirit world and our world. And fire, like many of you said, is about transformation and rebirth. So the death and rebirth. The fire ceremonies in the Dagara tradition actually requires and asks of an individual to get so close up to the fire, like the extreme heat of the fire, that which they stay for as long as they can, that the fire actually transforms them, not on a physical level, but on a psychological level, so that the heat burns them until they feel like they're going to be set on fire, and then psychically they're transformed. So there's the power in that transformation. But at the same time, on the flip side of it, I think some of you have said power is action, is combustion, is a kind of speed and power, right? I think there's also the dark side of the fire. And the modern culture actually is identified with fire, if we think about it. There is, well, first of all, there's just more and more fire in our world due to the climate change. And there's less and less of water. And it really, to me, is a parallel in some ways with the modern culture that we live in. A lot of us live with a lot of fire. There's a sense of impatience, a sense of go, 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 go. I had to do it fasterness. And that it's a combustion in the sense of our action and the speediness and the need for driving more. Do it faster. I think it's more present, particularly in the business world, where everybody, well, let me step back. Many people are burning out. So the speediness of that which we live our lives is a form of fire. And that in itself, it's almost like the empty fuel just keeps running itself. And so it's driven the anger, ease to anger. If you have seen anything in the US news lately, there is a few incidents that really stands out of the combustion of our temper, and it shows through gun violence. Like somebody pulls into a driveway erroneously and gets shot to death. And the situations of erroneously ring a doorbell and get shot and injured. There's like this combustion from this overactive speed that is similar to the wildfires that's going through California. Like the fire is burning the earth, but inside of us, the fire is also burning, the combustion. And that comes from this adrenaline-driven go-ness and empty consumptiveness of a relationship we have with the world. So this restlessness and what they say in African culture, this is from Malidoma Somé, if any of you have heard of him. He talks about how this consumption just keeps on going until we really burns ourselves to death. And that feels like, to me personally, is a process we're in right now culturally, this combustive cycle of burning ourselves to death. So yeah, I like to pause there for now and just get a few thoughts from people having heard that. What does it elicit in you? Any thoughts and feelings?
Well, I mean, my thought is that the fire energy really needs to be handled skillfully. And I like the connection you made to burnout, which is, I think, something that a lot of us know well and know about, and which is, I guess, for me personally, a little bit easier to look at than the more serious situations you mentioned, which, because I think if I think of work burnout, I don't feel the same fear as thinking about gun violence. So it's in some way easier to study or to observe. And yeah, again, that leads me to that this is really an energy that handled skillfully can be very beneficial and very nourishing. So that's where I'm ending up. This in some way it can be destructive and it can be nourishing. Mm-hmm. And so can we develop the skill to lean more into the nourishing possibility?
Mm. As you're speaking about that, somehow like the thought of Kali also came up. The goddess Kali, where fire can be destructive, but in a positive way, where it's a form of destruction for the clearing of something new, so that can come through. So yeah, like if fire is also something to me that feels very uncontrollable in some ways, like as you speak about like how to lean on the nourishing side.
And the other thing I was also thinking when you were speaking is how we play with fire using social media
Mm.
and how that contributes to the political fire
Mm.
experiencing.
I like what Robert's bringing up about, how the word that comes from me is contain. And I think a lot of the images of earth, the element of earth helping contain fire, like the stones around a fire,
Mm.
this council fire, right? Or the fireplace in the home, right? And the engine of a car or a locomotive is structure that contains, the controlled explosion that drives the vehicle where we want to bring it. I'm a Leo with 5 planets in Leo. I've got so much fire, right? It can be exhausting even to myself. So I've really had to I still continue to study how to bring more earth, right? Structure, slowing down, literally feeling my bones and my butt in the chair in order to, manage what my gift of fire is.
I love that. The earth contains, no matter how much is burning, the earth contains.
These are similar to thoughts I was having, because if you take it to the containment of the fire within us, how important it is to contain our own fire so it doesn't burn other people, which is what we're talking about, that when we're out of control with that passion, with all, which is where we are right now, which is what you were saying. So we also need some containment for that to be safer. Yeah.
Yeah. Our expression of anger and passion sometimes can be.
The relationship also of fire and water. And you had talked a lot about water, but cultivating the water, the flow, determination of water in this kind of way of it finding its way. The movement of water seems so different than the movement of fire.
So thank you, Abby, for bringing this such powerful element, and everything you have all been saying about the destructiveness and also the power and the sensing in the body as we are talking about all of this. I can feel the very powerful strength of the fire, of the getting together, for example, around a fire that is so powerful. I felt, oh yes, we are here around the fire together, and this is so powerful. And then at the same time, how destructive also, as Robert was saying, and thank you, Robert, for putting words to that. I didn't know how to phrase that. The destructiveness and so the energy of the fire is so, and I'm just trying to sense how we level that in ourselves, as somebody else was saying, Steph, I think, how not to let that fire burn other people or be destructive, and on the contrary, use it for the energy that is needed to do other things that are useful and out there in the world. So wow, that's and when you mentioned the fire of the ancestors and that being so strongly in all of us, so wow, so much there. Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, I'd love to share what came up for me as you said that. Yeah, because the way I experience when I think about that combustive, like uncontrollableness, like if I experience anger in my body, it's this like energy in the backside, and it comes up and just floods my back, up my neck, right? Like totally overtakes me, and like I'm no longer in control. And then But the other nourishing sort of fire that is the tending, connective one, there's that fire that comes from my heart, the heart fire, and that is the heart radiance and the heart warmth, and that can be palpably felt as well. And that's such a different energy than the in the backside.
It's good to hear Abby talking about the element of fire today. And it seems, as I hear about the fire element in our body, the more awareness of the fire element came to me. And it seems so easy for us to like channel our fire to something else, maybe the fire outside the world. And that channeling of our attentions to others, the destructive fire that is burning the world, could make ourselves fearful of our own fire. So it makes me reflect and think of how to make this fire, arise and make some food. I don't know. It can make something, okay, in life. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
What comes up for me about fire is the nervous system tone of survival. And if I take it back, it feels like we basically are all trying to get resources. Each as individual, as groups, we are fighting over to be able to stay alive. That's what fire is, what comes up for me. And that reminds me when we do some work in focusing, how we, at least this is what I have been taught, how to create space when something is difficult to handle. That to me, space is so, to me, the opposite of fire is giving space. That's what it feels to me. And so I always love that thing of giving space for experiences rather than eat at them and know at them, and something like that. And to me, that's like a fire.
Thank you. Is it Nurit? Is that how you say your name?
Okay. Yeah.
Nurit. I love that. Yes, the space and the air feeds the fire and allows it space to dance. I'm wondering, Len, go ahead.
It reminds me of how focusing in a way is like the great modulator, that it can give space to the fire, water to the fire, and when there isn't enough fire, it can warm us up, so it can do both, cooling us down and warming us up, because that modulator inside is sort of driven with focusing, invited with focusing, ignited maybe is a good word.
Thank you.